the Life to Legacy Explained free virtual series brought to you in part by the Chip Reverse Mortgage by Home Equity Bank.
We're now joined by Jillian Price, Hearing Life Canada's Chief Audiologist, to talk about the importance of hearing care and its impact on our health and well-being. Jillian, could you tell us a little bit more about the Hearing Health and Love Your Ears campaign?
Yes, thank you for having me. So I think many of us don't really, pay attention to our hearing, and the reason why is because it's something we do without having to put a lot of effort into it. Our ears just hear all day, and we can often take that for granted. It's one of our five senses, and maybe I'm biased, but I would say that it's maybe the most important. Now, if I can just paint a picture, if you think about, a summer day, and you're just waking up, and maybe the window is open, and you hear the birds chirping, and you can hear the leaves rustling because it's a windy day or a slightly windy day. And the kettle is boiling, so you can hear things going on in the kitchen, and there's maybe a little bit of talking. So you know that the house is alive, that people are up and activities going on. Well, think about all the pieces of information that you have gained from your ears, and you haven't even left your bed yet. What would it be like if you couldn't hear any of those? And so that's the importance of our hearing. We really have to take care of our ears because it gives us so much. It's how we connect, it's how we socialize, it's how we build relationships, and we have to take care of our ears, and we have to do that early on because, unfortunately, hearing loss does creep into our lives as we age, and for most of us, it's irreversible.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people realize that there's actually a big link between hearing loss and mental health. So
Yes.
Can you speak a little bit about how hearing loss can impact your mental health?
Yes, Mike's conversation was it was beautifully said that social isolation is a huge factor in our happiness or overall quality of life. And with hearing loss, that's one of the major risks is social isolation. So as we lose our hearing, we tend to isolate, we tend to pull back. And the rates of depression and anxiety are actually double in those with untreated hearing loss. So social isolation, depression, anxiety, and we now are learning that there is an association between hearing loss and cognitive decline and dementia. So it has serious mental and health impacts if we go without treating our hearing loss. It's not that we can, completely avoid hearing loss as we age, but what we want to do is be proactive. We want to reduce our risk, and we need to have that information in order to make those changes in our lives as we age.
So I have this saying, it's sort of like there's voluntary hearing loss. So I have a teenager.
Yes, there is.
And sometimes I'll say, Ty, and I know he can hear me. And I go, Ty, and I know he can hear me and he ignores me. So that is an example of voluntary hearing loss.
Yeah.
So
selective hearing, yeah.
Yeah, selective hearing. So what are some signs, though, of hearing loss that we should look out for in ourselves or even in loved ones?
Yes. So there are some signs that will happen initially, and just to bring some statistics into it, hearing loss is very common. And so for Canadians age 60 and over, it's almost 50%.
Wow.
So this is a lot of us, and so you're not alone if you are experiencing some hearing loss. But what we can do is we can protect our ears. But what will happen if you do have some hearing loss is the first thing you're going to start noticing is that you're going to start having trouble hearing in less than ideal listening situations. That's with a lot of background noise. So that restaurant, which is noisy, the dishes are clanging, there's lots of people talking, there might be some music playing, and you're not hearing everyone at the table. Now, one thing about hearing loss that maybe people don't know if they don't have hearing loss is it's not an all or nothing. As we lose our hearing, we lose certain parts of sounds. So conversation starts to sound muffled, or people sound like they're mumbling. It's not that you can't hear, you can hear, but you can't hear everything with clarity anymore. So it's the clarity that is compromised. It's not an all or nothing, and this tends to worsen over time. So if you start to notice that people sound like they're mumbling or things are muffled, or you're just struggling to hear in background noise, if you're turning the TV up a little bit louder, if family members are telling you that things are louder, or if you're saying pardon a little bit more often, those are some of those first signs that will happen to somebody.
And so would we think of our healthcare, like I know as a woman that every 3 years I need to go and get my physical and my PAP, but we don't necessarily have that same idea in mind when it comes to hearing tests. So is there an age where we should start having hearing tests?
Yes, there is. And that's part of the Love Your Ears campaign is we just want people to think about their ears. And we want, hearing care is self-care. And so put it on your wellness checklist. Sometimes hearing does get missed, and we just really hope that it doesn't anymore. So a really good recommendation and something to keep in mind is because of that statistic of 60 and over with so much hearing loss, is that if you are age 60 and over, you should be getting your hearing checked. Get a baseline hearing test at age 60, and that way your hearing healthcare provider can monitor and check and recommend a regular schedule for you, which could be 2 years, 5 years, or maybe every year, depending on what we find.
And if hearing loss is left untreated, because sometimes you think you'll just chalk it up to, well, this is just normal.
Yep.
It's just something that's happening as I age. But are there things that are not so good that can happen as hearing loss gets worse if left untreated?
Yes, well, I think social isolation is, and I think we've already mentioned how negatively that can impact overall quality of life. But if you treat your hearing loss, you have better relationships, better communication, more connected to your family, easier time with conversations. And I haven't even really touched on the mental drain and the energy that it takes to strain to hear all day when you are struggling. I really haven't even touched on the cognitive load. So how much resources you have to use to fill in the gaps for what your ear is not picking up. It is exhausting. And individuals with untreated hearing loss will be exhausted by the end of the day just from trying to hear. And that's why people stop going to their social events. They start to socially withdraw because it's too much energy. It's frustrating. It's embarrassing. And that's when they start to make changes in their lifestyle to accommodate a quieter life. It's not because you want a quieter life, it's because it's easier. So that's, basically treating hearing loss is it's related to overall quality of life, improvement of quality of life, and not being at risk for social isolation and all the other factors that come with that.
And so what are some of the hearing aid options, and has technology changed much? Like I think I get to wear this fun little earpiece when I'm here on stage, and
Yes,
I wear it out in real life too. I like to think I'm a CIA agent outside of this stage, but what are some of the options that people have for hearing aids?
Yeah, and I'm glad you're mentioning that because what I want people to know is that you don't have to suffer. There is solutions out there. And for most of us who will experience hearing loss, it is permanent sensory neural loss, which means it's irreversible. We can't take a magic pill or bring it back. So we are trying to find solutions that can accommodate for that. And the most successful solution for most of us is hearing aids. That's amplification. And my gosh, these are magical little mini computers that can do things that are they blow my mind. They're amazing.
What kind of things can they do?
Well, what they can do is essentially re-engage somebody back into their life.
Right.
I just think of my father as a personal experience, and if he doesn't wear his hearing aids, he cannot function. He has moderately severe hearing loss. He wouldn't be able to watch TV, answer the phone, have communication with my mom. He really wouldn't be able to function without hearing aids. He can do all of that.
Right.
And it's because of that technology. Without that technology, his life looks completely different, sounds completely different. So it re-immerses him back into his life. He has connections, communication, family, love, all the things that we as social beings, we want and we need. We need our hearing. We need to be able to connect with people. And as human beings, this is how we connect, is through communication. But the technology advances, going back to your question, is Bluetooth technology is the latest, I'd say, amazing technology that has brought the rest of the world into someone who wears hearing aids. And that's because you can connect it to a smartphone, you can connect it to your TV, you can connect it to a regular telephone. You can now
Can I connect it to someone else's telephone so I can hear what they're saying?
We'll probably get there, yeah, you probably can, to be honest.
Perfect for my CIA job.
Yeah. But it's advanced with modern technology, and
Right.
almost everybody has a smartphone now. So if you can listen to phone calls, so the hearing aids become like your wireless headphones. And if you can stream everything through the hearing aids, somebody with hearing loss can essentially have the advantage and use the benefits of all this Bluetooth technology that is available. Again, I just bring up my father. He would never be able to do any of this or talk on a cell phone before Bluetooth technology. So this has changed his life dramatically, and I know it's changing many, many lives of those who do wear hearing aids, and they can now use all the fun gadgets that are out there.
Amazing. And I'm glad to hear that, because that means now when you're speaking to your father, you know he's fully understanding what's happening and be immersed in that conversation. So just to wrap us up, what is the first step that someone can take to explore hearing loss treatment?
Get your hearing tested. It's really that simple. I mean, really, at the end of the day, you don't know if you don't get your hearing checked. And for people with hearing loss, as that's the initial stages, they often are the last to know. It's usually your family, your loved ones that will tell you, I think you might have a hearing problem. I think you're not hearing very well. So listen to them and get your hearing checked. It's painless. It takes less than an hour to do. It's complimentary, at least at HearingLife it is. So just go in and get your hearing tested, and knowledge is power. So once you know what your hearing levels are at, then you can take proper steps. And that's really that's step number one.
Great.
Just get it checked.
Well, thank you so much, Jillian.